make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Good evening on a Tuesday night, election day night here on Greenie Sports Cards Live. But don't worry, your election respite is here this evening. No politics, no political talk, no results. We're just going to have some fun this evening talking sports and hobby news and, of course, the pride and peril of being a Cleveland sports fan. Lots of ups, lots of downs lately, depending on whose team you're rooting for in this city. But we're going to have some fun. And again, no political talk, no discourse, just a little welcome break into the evening here. We are here as we are every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Tuesday Eastern Standard Time. And then our auction goes live at 9 p.m. on eBay. This is, in fact, the world's first multi-stream broadcast for the hobby industry, where we talk with special guests and bring you content and hobby news and interesting characters and a cast of thousands here on Greenie Sports Cards Live, as we have done almost every Tuesday since early January. And the beat goes on. Tonight, we are going to welcome in Nick Pedone from the BIGPLAY Sports Network, which is, in fact, one of the fastest growing networks in America for sports. And they've got all kinds of interesting shows and podcasts and athletes and personalities. So we'll talk to Nick about that and his career as it ascends here in Cleveland, Ohio and beyond, and have some fun with that, get a look behind the scenes at BIGPLAY and what they're doing and their shows. And yeah, so make sure you stick with us. Follow us on all the socials on Greenie Cards. We've got an exciting announcement coming up this evening in a little bit when we bring Greenie on, and we'll talk about that. And as always, make sure you chime in, drop a comment from wherever you're watching. Of course, you may find us on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and a number of other points in between. But we can see it, so comment. Let us know where you're watching. Let us know what you want to see, and upcoming guests as well. So this show works because it's interactive. And then the auction itself, if you have not seen that, make sure you pop back on at 9 p.m. with Alex and, of course, Haley behind the board. And they have a lot of fun, and we have a lot of fun with the show. All auctions start at $2. And the fun goes from there. Alex has basketball, baseball cards, football, soccer, wrestling, hockey, you name it. And again, it's interactive. So you got to let him know what you want to see and what you want to auction off. He's got packs. He's got surprise packs. They've got some boxes to open and lots of fun. So make sure you check that out. Again, eBay Live. We are here every Tuesday at 7 and the auction at 9. And then Alex is back on Thursdays with the auction at 9 p.m. And again, make sure you follow us and keep checking it out. So looking forward to welcoming Nick here in a little bit. But first, let's bring on the man himself, the guy who lets us do this every week. Greenie, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, Jeremy. I'm good for a Tuesday night. Busy day. There is one programming note. There will be no auction tonight. It'll be on Thursday.
Okay.
We we thought people may have other things to do, who knows, right? But there's no reason to tempt fate, and we figure we just take the night off tonight and just concentrate on sports. And
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah,
You could still bet on any number of platforms, I'm sure.
that's right.
On
That's right.
any number of things.
Listen,
Including
they can
Cleveland
go to our
sports.
eBay store, Jeremy. They're welcome to go to our eBay store, and there's thousands of cards there for them to pick from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where the real good stuff is. So
That's right.
but yeah, all right. So pop back on Thursday for the auction with Alex. That's Call Your Shot. Of course, that's Alex Shot. So Alex will be back on Thursday at 9. So Greenie, a little bit of hobby news we wanted to talk about initially. Some things we've talked about from an event production standpoint, and the Super Bowl of card shows has actually taken this leap as well. One of the big complaints historically has been there's no pathway for newer collectors, dealers. It is a little bit of and historically has been an older industry with dealers that have been in there a very long time. The National, of course, heading into its 45th year. But now there's a little bit of a pathway for newer collectors and dealers to get in. Let's talk about that. This news comes from Rich Miller, our friend over at Sports Collectors Daily.
So yeah, I mean, anyone that's attended the National Sports Collectors over the last 6-8 years. I mean, I know it's been going on 40 years, but I mean, it has been progressively growing every single year to the point where over the last 4, 5, 6 years, there's been a waiting list to get a booth. Fortunately, we've been doing it for a while, so we have our spot and our priority. But and that's how it works. Every year that you do it, you gain a priority point. But the venues are not as big to hold the amount of vendors that want to do it, and that's a nobody's fault. I mean, the buildings are as big as they are, Jeremy. I mean, you're aware of that, and the waiting list is however many deep it is, but the National has heard that, and the new JBJ and the board decided that they're going to try something this year where it's not booth, but there's some extra tables, and some people will get a chance to get a table. From what I understand, it's not a booth. You won't be able to configure anything. It's just an 8-foot table as it sits. But your option is to not be in the show if you say no to that, right? So people that want that table, I don't know how many there are. I think it's said in that maybe there's 75 of those. And they're going to be upstairs. So if you're familiar with Rosemont, which, Jeremy, you and I are, but some people that aren't, Rosemont, you come in, like there's a circle where you can drop off, but then there's 2 entrances to the show, and it's like a big horseshoe. There used to only be one entrance, and it used to only be on one side, but it's almost like a big horseshoe that you can walk from side to side, or even go out through the main lobby. But there are escalators that go upstairs, and traditionally, this is not the National, but Chicago Sports Spectacular runs a couple shows a year in March and November, and those shows are upstairs. So they are going to be using one of those rooms upstairs with tables. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, there's more vendors that's going to be in there, and it's going to be more opportunity for people to buy and sell. So we will see how that goes. I'm pretty sure. I don't know that they're sold out of those already. But if they're not, I mean, I guess you can go to the Nationals website. But yeah, I mean, it's going to bring new people that have wanted to be in, that have had their names on the waiting lists, and that's your pathway to start gaining priority points. And if you're not on the waiting list, go to their website, fill out a letter of intent, and put your name on the waiting list. And eventually, like the Green Bay Packers, you're going to get a phone call, and you're going to get a chance to set up at the National at some point.
Yeah. Next man up, you got to be ready. The National will be in Chicago for the next couple of years. Of course, it was in Cleveland at the IX Center this past year. The IX, before the reconfiguration, was about a 2.2 million square foot venue. It's a little smaller than that. As people know, it was reconfigured this year. Rosemont is about 3 million square feet, and it's not contiguous. It's not ideal from a large room, as people who've been there well know. but there is plenty of room to accommodate. And I think having been there last year with you, Greenie, or 2 years ago, the surprising thing was, as big as that show is and was, there were people everywhere, and every aisle was packed. There was room in the industry for people, and which was encouraging, one, for me coming to Cleveland, knowing that the industry and the hobby is as hot as it is. But the fact that they can continue to add tables and grow the show, and there's still a demand, there's still people coming into these events, is pretty amazing.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable what the industry has become and how many people are involved in it. And, I don't know where bigger venues are. You know that. That's the world that you lived in. But, like, I don't know. Where do you put all these people that want to do it? I mean, other than, you go down to Jerry's World, right? I mean, maybe that's a bigger space. But then you have to have the infrastructure. I mean, you have to have parking. You have to have hotels. You can't just say, all right, we'll put them in this whatever complex in the middle of South Dakota. You got to have some other things for people to do.
Mike Burke is one of the founders of the National. Used to joke, we could put the show in your backyard and people will show up. But a little bit of that is true. But the reality is there's a confluence of a lot of things that have to happen. The size of the venue, the city that can handle the infrastructure, the hotel rooms, the traffic. IX, admittedly, that first day, I don't think they were prepared for the onslaught of traffic and VIP. And that's a building that is designed to handle a lot of people coming through. So again, it'll be in Chicago the next couple of years. They'll get a chance to get acclimated. They'll continue to add to the show and grow there. We're going to turn our attention to back home, closer to home with Cleveland sports. Of course, Greenie, the Cleveland State University Vikings, the women, tipped off tonight against the Ohio State University. Of course, I have a rooting interest in both programs, but CSU has big expectations for this year. And we have not quite a live look, but a little bit of a look into some boots on the ground there as they tipped off. I think at last check, maybe at halftime, CSU was down a little bit, but they're going to learn a lot tonight and then come back home for the season.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you start off with arguably a top 10 team. I think they're ranked 14, but we all know Ohio State will jump in the polls this year. And it'll be a good learning experience. I have a friend, Rachel Mansfield, who's down at the game and sent some of these pictures. She's a season ticket holder for Ohio State, but she's obviously a Cleveland State fan living up here and goes to those games as well. But yeah, I saw last I saw, I think they're down 55-39 in the third quarter. First game back for the whole team, but Destiny Leo as well, who hasn't played in nearly a year, and to get her acclimated on the floor with the rest of the team, with Mickey and Colby and everybody. So this game will be a learning experience, especially going up against competition like that. And if they hang tough, and if you lose that game, it's okay. It's game one, but it can show kind of maybe what you're made of and what you have to look forward to this year.
Yep. Like I said, they're going to learn a lot. There's a ton of talent on that team. Really excited to see that team evolve this year, along with the men, Cleveland State Vikings. Lots of ball and basketball content in this town. It's a Kent State evening as well. Our guest upcoming is a graduate of Kent State University, as are you, as is Haley. And I have checks going to the school currently with one of my adult children there. So big Kent State University fans. We'll touch on that a little bit. We do want to, before we bring Nick on, we want to share a really exciting announcement relative to the Cleveland State University women's basketball team. Greenie, why don't you take it away and talk about Greenie Cards?
So we kind of touched on it a little bit last Tuesday, but we've delved into the world of NIL, name, image, and likeness, and have made some cards in the past of singular players. Well, we have made team sets; those were school oriented, but now we are taking a dive in with Cleveland State girls, and we have NIL contracts, I guess, with all 14 girls on this team. And these cards will be for sale individually, and the money coming in is going to help benefit these girls, and they're going to gain, depending on how many they sell, that is how much money that they're going to make, and proceeds will help them, for their journey in this collegiate NIL, and everything is happening. And we're going to have these live, greeniecards.com. We have a new website that is just going to be for shopping. Right now it'll have NIL cards. Eventually it'll have a full store of everything that we have. But yeah, and there will be other student athletes from other schools and other sports that will be added to these. But right now we're starting with Cleveland State women's basketball team.
Yeah, very cool. This is only scratching the surface. Cleveland State full team set as individual players is on. As you said, there's players coming from Ball State and Akron and Wright State and Notre Dame. And this program that you've launched is really incredible. It's open to any athlete, any team, any school. So we're going to see some cards from perhaps baseball players, volleyball players, basketball players at any of these schools. And it fills a niche. The top of the line football players at Ohio States of the world and the Alabamas and the LSUs, or certain female basketball players that formerly at Iowa did not need a lot of help, but it's all these other student athletes across the country that are looking not necessarily to take advantage of NIL, but just be a part of it. And this is a pathway. So very exciting. The store will launch any minute with these cards, along with a number of others. So this is a sneak peek at what's to come. And I think the other exciting part of this, Greenie, is the retail component of all the other stuff that you have, the tens of thousands of cards. Select a number of those will go on this site, and people can peruse this and continue to be part of the Greenie Sports Card kingdom anywhere in the country.
Yeah, it's really that simple, right? As soon as this is live, we'll be able to connect with anybody, and they'll be able to connect with these student athletes.
Very, very cool. So we're going to go ahead and welcome our guest this evening. Is we're here based in here, Cleveland. We are Cleveland sports fans, but very excited to welcome Nick Pedone this evening with us. He's a sports media personality and analyst known for his work with the BIGPLAY Sports Network, which, as I mentioned earlier, is really the fastest growing sports network in the country. They offer a variety of live sports talk shows and podcasts and video content featuring former athletes and personalities. Nick is one of the primary personalities on the BIGPLAY Cleveland show, along with Chris McNeil and Gab Cruz. And we'll get to talk to Nick about that and more about his evolution and growth in Cleveland and really the BIGPLAY Network, which has some really, really awesome stuff. So let's go ahead and welcome Nick in. And thank you for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm a fan of the show. I think I'm honored to say, I don't know if I could stay on here. I kind of knew that the show was going to be happening at some point before it actually took place. So I love what you guys have done here. I love what you've built. As a Halloween fan, I love the episode a couple of weeks back where you guys were going through the old Halloween movies and some of the guests that you've had on. It's been awesome. And of course, tonight we've got an all Kent State show, which is awesome. And Greenie, I love the shirt. So excited for the conversation tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, the Kent State, the Halloween, the guests that we have, we try to do something kind of a little different, and kind of what you do at BIGPLAY is things that are different, and it gains the traction where people aren't used to the same static thing every single day. So yeah, I mean, we had guests on from stunt actors to Paul Landis, who was a Secret Service agent. So yeah, just something different. And we'll talk Cleveland sports, but a little bit of your background at Kent State. And I was there and Haley was there, and we've all lived through Kent State sports and Cleveland sports together, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I wish our Golden Flashes, at least the football program, was doing a little bit better right now, but we'll leave that out. But yeah, we definitely all share that in common. And I think that one common goal between all of us to get our name on the Twisted Melts menu of notable alum at Kent State one day is something that is still on my bucket list. I think I'm a ways away of being mentioned in the ilk of the Julian Edelmans and Wayne Dawsons of the world, but we'll get there one day.
Yeah.
Nick,
We have
take us a little bit. We definitely want to dig into big play and all the really cool stuff there, but let's connect the dots first. You went from Kent State, graduated there, and then tell everybody what happened from there and sort of your initial foray into the sports media world.
For sure. I will say that I am very blessed because while I was at Kent State, I'm doing all the things that they say you're supposed to do, right? I'm writing for the Kent State or the newspaper. I'm on Black Squirrel Radio, dabble a little bit in TV too, doing all the things that you're really supposed to get into. But I'm like, I'm covering Kent State athletics. And no offense to Kent State athletics. I love Kent State athletics, but I was a young guy. I was 18 years old, 19 years old. I wanted to get the Nick Pedone name out there more so than the Kent State athletic name out there. So I was really interested in Cleveland sports and covering Cleveland sports. That's the whole reason why I went to Kent State. I'm also unique in a sense where I knew that I wanted to be in the sports media realm from a very, very young age. My dad would drive my brother and I to school every day. We lived way too close for the bus, but a little bit too far to walk. So he would drive us to school every morning, and we would listen to the Fan every single morning. And as somebody that was never exactly gifted in mathematics or science, my dad one day just said, just cracked out of nowhere, hey, what would be cool? Like a cool career. He's like, if I could do it all over again, I would want to do sports talk radio. He's like, you would sit around. He's like, listen to these guys. They're all friends. He's like, and talk about sports. And I was probably in 6th grade. And right there, the light bulb went off, like the cartoon light bulb went off above my head. I'm like, that's it. I'm dedicating my life to this. So I knew from before the time I was a teenager that this is what I wanted to do. So when I'm at Kent, I'm doing Kent athletics. That's great. But I want to do Cleveland sports. So I found a really small blog at the time and I started contributing articles and I was able to get my name out there a little bit more. I was able to get credentials to some things, which I thought was just such a huge deal as a young guy, just trying to make my way in the, journalism media realm. And one thing leads to another. I wind up as an intern at ESPN Cleveland. They tell us the interny thing there. If you work really hard, you could get hired on permanently after this. And similar to how I took my dad's, throwaway comments as gospel, I took that as gospel as well. So I was able to get hired on permanently at ESPN Cleveland while I was still in Kent. And I was making the drive, from Kent to downtown back when ESPN Cleveland was at the Galleria. And then throughout all of it, I've been working with Big Play Dave and the crew over at Big Play. We were a blog. I love written articles, but when the world was changing right before the pandemic and our attention spans were continuing to shrink, we were like, hey, we had a couple podcasts. It's hard to get people to listen to podcasts. So we were like, what if we could just put video podcasts just right out on the internet where people are already hanging out, people are already interacting. And that's kind of how like the Big Play Network pivoted from a blog to what it is today, and a real true sports media company with dozens of live daily sports shows and sports content. It's been such a fun journey to, really just have my hands in it as, a younger guy, just trying to find my way truly to being one of the people that I think I could say, has helped build it into really what it is today. And Jeremy, I appreciated, the intro. We want to be one of the fastest growing media companies in America. I think certainly we are that here in Ohio. And it's just been really fun to build it out these last couple of years.
Yeah, we watch it, and we started reading it when it first came out, and it progressed to watching it. I know one thing that when you're saying your story and you listen and you talk to grow up to be on sports talk, one thing that people don't realize, it's not just that there's guys and gals, you're sitting around and you are talking sports, but you're spending hours and hours of time researching these sports and finding those niche statistics or getting credentialed and going to the press conference. So take that, try to explain that to people that it's not as easy as just, hey, let's grab a microphone and talk and people are going to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Researching, is huge. And honestly, too, like one of the things that I'm, pretty passionate about is the storytelling aspect about this, because anybody and everybody, and this is part of what makes sports great and what makes specifically sports in Cleveland, Ohio so great, is everybody loves the Cleveland Browns. Everybody loves the Cavs. Everybody loves the Guardians, and everybody watches those games for the most part pretty darn closely. So everybody has opinions. Everybody, you could go to, your local Marks, your local Giant Eagle, and ask somebody in the, canned food aisle, what do you think about the Browns? And they're going to have a take, which is one of the fun things about sports. But you're right, making connections with people, making connections with athletes. When I was very young into my career and still at Kent, I had an internship where, it was long form feature writing. And that's a challenge. You're interviewing multiple people for multiple days, multiple hours. So there is so much that goes into everything behind the scenes from, and that's across the spectrum. So that's for, the articles that you read, the sports casts on the news that you watch, the radio that you listen to. These people are putting in, hours, years of their life really to this craft, and it's been really special for me to be a part of it so far.
Nick is the fastest growing sports network in Twinsburg, Ohio. We look at Big Play with great affinity. The network is grown immensely, particularly in the last year and a half, 2 years or so. Let's talk about some of these programs. I mean, you're besides the Big Play Cleveland show, which of course is you and McNeil and Gab, who people know from the Guardians as the in-game host over on the Guardians. McNeil they know for a lot of other reasons we may or may not get into this evening. You've got some incredible content with Josh Cribbs and Boobie Gibson, and you can see Bobby Carpenter and Anthony Schlegel from down in Columbus, Buckeye Land, Hanford Dixon, the Williams boys that we've had a chance to talk to as well, Greg and Blake. Just amazing. Voice of the Land that Greenie's affiliated with as a sponsor.
Yeah.
Bruce Drennan and Sean Crawford, who we've had on and done work with as Varsity House. And then of course Chico and Matt, who do their stuff every day. It's talk about that a little bit, how all this content has come together under this umbrella.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone says it, but I feel like we truly are. Everything that we've built has just been completely organic. And I'll take you guys back not too far, not too long ago, 2 years ago, we were doing the show out of Dave's garage. It was the best, it was the best hour of my week. I would drive over to his house over there in Bay Village. We'd crack the garage open and we'd do the show. We just figured out how to do it. And then from there, we, just grew in popularity on the internet, with having Dave, myself, Gab, and Chris. We definitely had like some social media, I guess you could say, like star power, firepower, where we were able to definitely move the needle a little bit on social media. And then one day, Dave texted me. He's like, hey, Gab just called, and I think Bernie and Hanford Dixon are coming to my house, and they're going to tape a podcast. And I was like, that sounds fun. And thus the Hanford Dixon show was born. And that's kind of really how we've built out the entire network, like up walked Hanford, right up Dave's, driveway into the garage. And we quickly realized like, hey, we can't grow an entire network out of the garage. And huge shout out to Ken Miles at the network, who's kind of the business component that really put a method behind all the madness of what we wanted to do from a content side and blended it with business. We were able to get our studios built out at Burke Lakefront Airport. We now have 2 full production studios, our main office, and it's really given us the runway to build a lot of the shows that you see online. Greg and Blake Williams, another really fun example of how organic the Big Play Network has grown. Last year, Week 1, Brown season. Everybody's excited. Massive tailgate out in front of Burke Lakefront Airport, which is really just a couple steps away from the stadium. We've got this gigantic stage out there. We're doing a pregame show. Everybody's having fun. The garage beers are flowing. And I see Reflog walk up the steps of the stage as I'm like live, headphones on, broadcasting live, doing the whole Browns pregame show. And he's got Greg Williams with him. And Reflog's pointing at Greg Williams and he's mouthing the words to me, "That's Greg Williams." And I'm like, I know that's Greg Williams. I see him standing right next to you. So we go to break. Greg wants to come on. We get him a headset. Next thing I know, Greg Williams has me by the shirt collar and he's explaining to me as if I was Baker Mayfield, how Greg helped Baker get sacked less when Greg was the interim head coach with the Browns. And on stage, in front of a whole crowd of people, he's got me by my shirt collar screaming in my face. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, the world needs more of this. The world needs more of Greg Williams. And that's how Come Get Some was born. So we really have had, just an incredible stroke of luck and really just, it's another part of being blessed to be in the city of Cleveland, which, in my mind is the best sports town of the world, where we have so many beloved figures and beloved athletes here. And the Big Play is kind of the home for all of these people to come and give their takes on sports and kind of build their own little community that way.
Yeah, we had a chance to talk to Greg and Blake Williams, and they truly love doing that show.
Yeah.
And you can see them on social media, and I think actually Greg Williams is now on social media as well. He wasn't before, but these guys have embraced that show. And like we've said on many of these episodes, like, people come to Cleveland and they tend to stay here, and the Williams did. Now we know that Greg does have, pursuits to get back into coaching, but Blake is put his feet on the ground here in Berea, and he started a business, and he's got kids, and he's going to develop and build something here in Cleveland. And this Come Get Some show is really starting to take off. So yeah, we love watching that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what we want to be for, all of the legends, all of the GOATs, if you will, on the network, like Bruce Drennan as well. Bruce Drennan was retired. He had really no interest in doing much in the media field. And then we had, conversation to him. We explained to him, hey, it's kind of a 44-minute time commitment per week. And Bruce is funny. Bruce does not text. You have to call Bruce. Not a text guy at all. He has a smartphone, but the text feature on it is not one that gets utilized very often. So we really just want to be a breeding ground, really, and a platform for these legends to come, talk about the sports that they care about, tap into their guest lists, because like we were talking about Come Get Some, like the fact that they're able to just text Aaron Donald and get him on the show is awesome. Like the fact that like these guys have so much respect, and everybody across our network is so well respected in their respective fields. It's been really fun to build out.
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot, Greenie. Go ahead.
Oh no, well, I was going to say, like, Boobie Gibson's show, and now he's in studio for the Cavs games, right? So you get these guys that played the game, and they're able to tell you what it's actually like. There's one thing, Jeremy and I and you, we host these. To my knowledge, none of us have played professional sports, but these guys have, and you have Hanford Dixon, and you have Boobie Gibson and Josh Cribbs, and the stories that those guys can tell and the insight that they can give is kind of really different than anybody else. And the Carpenters, right? Like,
For sure.
These things are different than what you get on everyday talk shows.
For sure. I mean, Bobby runs the streets of Columbus. Like, he is a massive deal down there. And then, like you said, yeah, here locally, Boobie Gibson, like, shared the floor with LeBron James in the NBA Finals. Insane. Hanford Dixon, creator of the Dog Pound. Incredible. So, and what's awesome, too, and I think, like, the most overlooked part about working with all of these people is you hear the saying all the time, like, never meet your heroes, never meet your idols. Growing up, I was a massive Cavs fan. Obviously, the Browns weren't very good. The Cavs had LeBron. It was pretty easy to be a big Cavs fan growing up. So, like, working with Boobie Gibson and being on air with him every week and being, growing my own career and growing onto TV with Boobie Gibson, who I watched play, not that long ago as a younger guy. Like it's really been remarkable. Josh Cribbs as well, a legend here in the Cleveland community and in the NFL community. That's a guy that's nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame for, I believe, the 4th consecutive season. So we really do have a lot of living legends, and these people are all the most humble, nicest, willing to do the extra thing, the extra mile, the extra, autograph, take a photo with a fan outside the, lobby at the airport. It is, it's a really cool experience and something really cool to be a part of, for sure.
So Nick, you mentioned Josh Cribbs. I know there's been a pseudo campaign, if not more, for his Hall of Fame selection and induction. Make the case for him here. What's kind of synopsis of in your take on why Joshua Cribbs should be a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah, this is something that I feel so strongly about, because for really the better half of my life, the Cleveland Browns have not been good. I was born in 1998. Browns came back in 1999. Ever since, we haven't had much, but what we have had is some great individuals, and Josh Cribbs is one. And we could talk about the on the field stuff, and trust me, I will, but off the field, there is no kinder person. There's no better story. I mean, from literally grassroots humble beginnings to playing quarterback at Kent State and then having to transition positions in the NFL to become one of the best special teamers of all time. People talk about Josh Cribbs, the returner, and we all have the great memories of the runs against the Steelers, the 2 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs. But people don't realize Cribbs, unlike some of the other specialists that are return specialists that are in the Hall, played defense as well. Like Cribbs has over 100 career tackles to display. So really, when you look at the way that the league has progressed and the things that they've done now with the dynamic kickoff, there will never another Josh Cribbs. And I think when you look at what the Pro Football Hall of Fame stands for, and it's immortalizing pieces of football history, it's incomplete without one of the most complete special teams players of all time, and that's Josh Cribbs. So I truly believe he deserves a spot in Canton, and I really think it's a when, not if, he gets in there. I think Devin Hester was massive. I know Mitchell is up for the Hall of Fame and made it through the next round of voting this time through. So I really think now the special team guys are getting a lot of deserved love, and there's never going to be another Josh Cribbs, so he deserves a spot in there for sure.
Wearing this shirt, I tend to agree, right? And I've watched Josh Cribbs' full career. I watched him in college, and absolutely a highlight reel every time that he was on the field in the NFL.
I mean, there were so many times, guys, where like you were watching the game and just like it would be a close game and you're hoping and praying that the defense allows a touchdown so we would have the opportunity to get the ball in Cribbs' hands on a kick return, because we knew the quarterback wasn't going to move the ball. We knew the receiver was going to drop it, but you knew that there was a chance if Cribbs was able to take one out of the end zone that he was going to do something magical with it and at least get into field goal range for Phil Dawson. Like that's what we were rooting for during that era of Cleveland Browns football. He's a huge, massive piece of this organization post-expansion. And I like I keep saying, a genuine piece of NFL history now that they've changed the kickoff the way that they have.
Yeah, Jeremy, right. As you like to say, Jeremy, he does have a Hall of Fame line to his credit as well, right? The Cleveland Browns sometimes always win.
The Cleveland Browns almost always win.
Yeah.
and it's truer words have never been spoken. And there is, I can't think of another guy, nobody comes to mind, that has his resume of both special teams, offense, and defense, a guy who could take it to the house anytime on punt returns or kickoff returns and actually made tackles on the defensive side of the kickoff. So, and you're right, Nick, the rules have changed. There will never be somebody else like him. So, we'll continue to root for that campaign. And of course, another Kent State tie-in today as well. Back to the Big Play Reflog show, or it is the Big Play Cleveland show now. Give us a
We
little
had to
insight
drop a
on
reflog monitor to get it on TV. The TV crowd was not understanding reflog, what it stood for. So we had to do a quick little rebrand to Big Play Cleveland to slide it through the TV world.
Yeah.
That's how that pivot happened.
Well, that's some good insight. Reflog, I believe, is golfer backwards for some people who didn't get that. Chris is a supernova onto himself. And some people may or may not instantly recognize him or know where they know him from, but he is the absolute meme master. He is all over social media. He has his stuff day in and day out. He never misses, and his stuff gets picked up all over the place. Give us a little McNeil insight on just how his brain works when you guys are sitting around and his process and what that's like working with him.
Oh, it's strategic. Like people don't realize the meme. It is strategic. It's like watching. I always say watching Chris McNeil make memes is the modern day comparison to watching Picasso paint. Like he has a bank of templates that he can use before any given game. He's got them all ready to go. He's got his editing app. He does it all on his phone in real time. So I've been with him before, like at Burke Airport. We're getting ready to walk over to the stadium for a game. He's saving all these templates. He's importing them into his editing app. And then we're at the game in real time. He's putting captions over things. He's sending things out. He's connecting to the stadium Wi-Fi, so he's sure that he's the first person that gets his memes out there. There is totally a method to his madness, and I really think like the best part about Chris is he found a way to unite everyone. He's like, Chris McNeil does not have haters. For being a guy that's on air and gives sports takes, there's people I'm sure that are out there in the Cleveland sports media universe that don't always like what I say on the Cleveland show. Chris has found a way by using comedy to just be an icon in this community that everyone likes because it's relatable. When Chris posts something like there's a piece of everyone, whether you're 13 years old, 14 years old, and getting ready to go to your freshman year in high school, or you're hanging around in a nursing home, playing around on your iPad, Chris's humor kind of cuts through any societal barriers that might get put up. Like he is truly a master at what he does, and it's impressive to watch him do it in real time.
And we all relate to it. Yeah, he doesn't miss. We all relate to it. And every time you see one of these memes, you're like, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one, and he gets it out there.
Whenever he gets one stolen, like it's like like that's a reflog meme. Like I think reflog is the originator of this. Like it wasn't Bleacher Report, it wasn't any of these other places like that. Reflog is the originator of that, and he's so cool about it too. Like he understands that his stuff gets screenshotted and shared all over on Facebook and all these different platforms, and I think that like a piece of him loves it. I think other people would be like, oh, I made that, give me my credit, but he is literally just a man of the people and wants us to all feel and relate together through memes, which is masterful.
It's so cool. The first one I really remember just having a run was the photo of the Cavs parade in 2016 that just gets repurposed as rallies and events and all kinds of interesting stuff. And then, and again, people may or may not realize there was an 0-16 parade. I think they realized that back when the Browns had that amazing season. And I believe Reflog Chris McNeil was the champion of that parade. So,
guys, do you want a little? So we're talking about the Cavs parade meme, which is one of the all timers. He uses it every year. The Cavs parade meme almost got there will be a 30 for 30 about this in the infamy of Cleveland sports lore one day. The Cavs parade meme almost got Chris banned for life from Twitter. Oh, he posted it, and then conveniently we're having this conversation on election night. He posted it on this day, election day 2020. And as you guys remember, I'm sure COVID was very prevalent then. And he posted that was the scene outside of the polls. Innocent throwaway joke. However, it was determined by the Twitter team as voter intimidation. And he was banned. I mean, he was straight up banned, suspended, couldn't log into his account. Password wasn't working, anything locked. So Dave and myself had to call up the powers that be over at the Twitter machine, now X. This is pre-Elon, and we were able to get Reflog unbanned. But it was almost a close call. It was his demise was almost that Cavs meme, ironically on election night for voter intimidation, because of a falsified image of the Cavs 2016 championship parade.
But he wasn't wrong. Right? Yeah, funny. So before Big Play was on TV, and people only knew Reflog by his profile picture. So we had our Great Lakes Collectors Convention 2 years ago, and you guys were there, and McNeil was there, and we have this little green room, and I introduced him to Ken Carmen, and Ken used a couple of words, but he's like, "You're McNeil." Like, nobody knew who he was. Everybody knew the picture from, but before he was on TV, nobody knew who he was. And
nobody knew.
And it wasn't like he wasn't hiding. Like, that wasn't his thing. But, like, nobody knew who he was. And Cartman, and I think Nick Wilson was in there. And, so they all met, and they became friends from that. But, yeah, it was funny to see.
The amount of people that we still get, like, people will just DM the Big Play, the at Big Play handle. Like, we just got one, like, no exaggeration, a couple days ago. And the DM says, I'm gonna pull it up and show you guys, like, so we could read it verbatim. Believeland on Twitter, this was just Sunday, said, "What is Reflog's avatar? I cannot sleep until I figure it out." And it's literally, and we just replied to everyone that says this: Google Tiger Woods cigar guy. That's all you need to do. Type it in on Google, open another tab right now. Tiger Woods cigar guy, it comes right up. And then from there, it's kind of self-explanatory. And the reason why he's always been that is and it'll never change, is because to him, that was the first like meme that he ever saw. He was like, the Tiger Woods cigar guy was kind of like a meme before memes really existed. So he's like, so that will forever be him. He's gotten in contact with that guy who is in the photo, and the guy loves it. He totally finds it hilarious that some divorced dad in Cleveland took it upon himself to make that his entire moniker. So it is just something that will never go away. The Tiger Woods cigar guy will always be synonymous with Chris McNeil.
That's amazing. You guys keep talking. I'm gonna Google Tiger Woods cigar guy.
Yeah. It's the background. So it's like that iconic photo of Tiger like hitting a ball right into the camera, and there's like that guy who's dressing up, impersonating another golfer as like almost like a Halloween costume, and he's just standing there. And everybody thought, like, the joke at the time on the internet, at the time when the internet was pretty new, everyone thought, like, is this guy edited in? Like, is this a joke? But it's not edited at all. That guy is actually in the photo. Just standing there in the background smoking a cigar.
Very interesting. So Cleveland sports talk is the reason that a lot of people have jobs. So you have that, Jeremy, right? You can pop that up while I ask this question.
Momentarily, yeah.
Cleveland sports talk is the reason that a lot of that you guys have. I saw one of your videos a couple years ago, and I was actually doing a little research today because that's what we do. You did a show with Phil Taylor, and it was titled "Are the Cleveland Browns Broken?" And here we are in 2024 on November 5th, and I'm just going to ask you: are the Cleveland Browns still broken?
It sure seems that way, guys. And it pains me to say that really ever since I stepped into this realm professionally, it felt like it's been a work in progress to repair the Cleveland Browns. So I'll take people back to when I was first starting, and I was first writing on that blog that I told you guys about that kind of took me down the rabbit hole of doing this professionally. It was, we're getting ready. Well, we were in the midst of the absolute rut. The Browns were horrible. when I started out my professional career. Historically bad. 1-31. No reason to explain it any further because we all remember how painful that was. But it was painful and it was strategic. They meant to be that bad. It was well-intentioned and deliberate to be the youngest roster in football, to sell off all the vets for draft picks and to stockpile and do what they did. And in theory, it almost worked because you got a Hall of Fame talent in Myles Garrett. And then the next year you were so bad that you were able to be the #1 overall pick again and land a franchise quarterback. You were able to pull off some phenomenal trades to get other Hall of Fame caliber level players into Cleveland at the time that those transactions took place. Jarvis Landry, great ad. Odell Beckham Jr. was on a Hall of Fame path when he first got acquired by the Browns. So it seemed like things were really looking up and we were really building towards something. And then the Deshaun Watson trade happens. And that was supposed to be the one move that we were so close. We finally had the roster. We were just a quarterback away. And that one quarterback that we mortgaged everything for was going to be the guy that elevated everything else. And it came with a lot of baggage, but the baggage was going to be okay because we told ourselves that, you know, it'll all go away. If he plays well on Sundays, it's all going to go away. And then he didn't play well on Sundays, and then it didn't go away. And now here we are 8 years later after pulling off one of the most meticulous tank jobs and strategized tank jobs in the history of professional sports. And now it feels like they're almost doing it again, but this time it's by complete accident and complete mistake. And that's the most scary part of this was this, guys, like, this is the most expensive roster in football. Like, this is completely on accident this time. This is not supposed to be happening this time, but it is. And here we go again. And here you guys are asking me this question. Are the Cleveland Browns broken? Yeah, I think they really are. And it's just not good right now in any way that you spin it. And I think there's hope because unlike those 1-31 days, I think there are guys that we could walk away from today's NFL trade deadline and say that these guys are part of the core. I know there's going to be a lot of chatter that even goes into the offseason about trading Myles Garrett, David Njoku, some of these guys. But I think we at least have a nucleus of players that are worth keeping. That wasn't exactly the case in 2016, 2017. So you would like to think they're a little bit further along, but I mean, it has been 8 years and it looked like we were kind of close, but this season, the bottom of the bag has just completely fallen out.
I mentioned the pride and peril of being a Cleveland sports fan. The roller coaster just really continues. The Cleveland Cavaliers are off to an 8-0 start, tied for the best start in team history. It's incredible basketball to watch, even early in the season. The Guardians took us to the doorstep of the World Series. You got Stephen Kwan and Andres Jimenez won Gold Gloves. But then on the flip side, David Fry is going to be out for 6 months to a year, possibly. The Browns are trading players away. I think most cities have a bit of a roller coaster, but ours is backed up by just the futility over years and years. And the Cavs have the only championship in at that time 54 years. So there's never a shortage of things to talk about in this town, and that's why we get to do this every week, and you guys get to go on all your shows.
Yeah, and that's why it's the best, right? Because like what's going on with the Browns right now stinks. There's no other way to go about it, especially because you guys know this is a Cleveland Browns town. People here will forever, I feel like, live by this team, die by this team. People want to talk about the Browns 365 days out of the year, even on Christmas Day. Browns football is what moves this town along. But it's nice that we have other outlets, other places to look. It's nice that we have the Cavs that have the hottest start to a season since the 70s. Like, this team is off to a hotter start than the team that actually won the championship and that ended the 52-year drought of no titles here in Cleveland sports. And the Guards really, while they feel like they get so close and then it always wavers, they are the most consistent franchise that we have here in Cleveland. They've been perpetual winners ever since this regime really took over. So it's nice that although the Browns find a way to kind of embarrass themselves, it feels like year in and year out, it is nice to have some other diversions and other places to look in our Cleveland sports fandom, because the other two teams often do give us reason to be proud. Just especially like the way they play. Like the Cavs right now are playing just like inspired Cleveland themed basketball. Same with the guards, like the whole guards ball thing, like that encompassed the city, of like underdog baseball. We were the smallest payroll of the 4 teams left at the time. So it is cool that we have at least 2 teams in town that we could really be proud of and consider our own right now.
And Evan Mobley has arrived officially in my mind. You can stamp last night's game with a block at the defensive end. He grabbed the ball, dribbled 94 feet, left-hand slam, comes back next possession. He hits a 3-pointer, and that's the total package right there. I've never seen a sequence like that. The unicorn is here, and they're going to be really exciting to watch this year.
That's what everybody wanted out of Evan Mobley. Like, this is what we've been hoping for. This is what we've been praying for. The extension this offseason came with so much scrutiny, but because the Cavs did pay him a ton of money, but they had to. And they made the Kenny Atkinson hire, I truly believe in my mind, because they had to. You couldn't go back with JB Bickerstaff, who just wasn't getting enough out of the core 4. So I've loved what I've seen thus far out of Mobley. How about Darius Garland? So many people last year, and it drove me crazy. So many people last year wanted to act like he just forgot how to play the game of basketball. Like, guys, he's already a smaller dude. He lost significant weight in the middle of an NBA season. And Booby and I covered that on his show at length throughout the time. Like, to have your mouth wired shut is one thing. That's not enjoyable, I'm sure. But then to, be on a strict liquid diet because of the result of that, and the amount of weight that DG lost in the middle of a season, and then had to quickly try to put it back on and go out there and play meaningful NBA minutes. Like, last year was such a wash for him. So it's been exciting, really, to see Kenny Atkinson pull the best out of all 4 of the core 4 of these Cavs. And they're playing inspired basketball right now.
And like we
said, real quick, outside the core 4, we had Tim Alcarn on a couple weeks ago, the night before the start of the season, radio voice of the Cavs. He gave us 2 players to watch. One was Sam Merrill, and the other was Ty Jerome, and he was spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he was. And what I was going to say is let's Donovan Mitchell for a second wanted to be in Cleveland, and that is a really big part of all of these guys together. He could have said, trade me. He could have said, I'm not signing. They could have had that whole thing. He said he wanted to be in Cleveland. And that's really the start of what's going to happen here. And yeah, they signed Mobley and Garland was on the extension, but all those guys look up to Donovan Mitchell and they're like, you know what? If he wants to be here, we want to be here. And he's the glue on this team.
For sure. And I feel like, too, the extension allows Cleveland to fully wrap our arms around Donovan Mitchell and be like, you know what? You're one of us. We've been burned before. We don't have to go through the examples of guys that we thought were going to be around and then left. Donovan stayed true to his word the entire time. I talked to someone that's close to Donovan, and ever since the trade happened, he repeatedly said, he's like, Donovan loves it here. Like, compared to Utah, this is awesome for Donovan. He loves the city. He loves his teammates. That Brian Windhorst report where he threw the golf clubs on the course and was running around like a joyous little kid was completely true. Although things got tough, at times for the Cavs last season, and certainly in the playoffs, there were bumps in the road. Never really wavered. He knew he was going to be back. And I remember telling the guy, I was like, we'll see. I'm not going to say this anywhere that you're telling me all this. I'm not going to write it anywhere. I'm not going to post it anywhere. But he stayed true the whole time that eventually when it came time to put pen to paper, Donovan would be back in Cleveland. And surely enough, it happened.
Nick, real quick, before we're out here, give us the socials. Where can people find you and Big Play?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a ton of fun. Appreciate also Greenie, you guys having me out at, your guys' card show is awesome. The National, which you guys were talking about before you brought me in, was my first time at that event this year, and it was phenomenal. I love what you guys are doing. For the hobby, I think it's great. It's something that I want to get more involved in. You guys can follow me on social, on Twitter at Nick Pedone 12, on Instagram is just at Nick Pedone. Love bringing you guys the best Cleveland sports content out there. Feel like we're all a community. We can all talk about Cleveland sports together. So love chatting up with people over there on the Twitter machine, and appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
It was awesome. We appreciate it too. We appreciate you guys coming and hanging out, and we love watching it. We thank you. You had us down to watch the Jets game last year, which was awesome. And yeah, we can't wait to see where this all goes together.
For sure.
Yeah. Nick, come back anytime. Thank you for joining us this evening. So our thanks to Nick Pedone, our thanks to Haley behind the wheel, and most of all, Greenie, thanks to you. Every Tuesday night, we'll do this again, 7 p.m. May the cards forever be in your favor.
Yeah, Jeremy, thanks again. We appreciate it. And no auction tonight, but he will be back on Thursday, Alex, with Call Your Shot. So that's it for this week, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.